Good morning, everybody. Jim Feiston, Hank Goldberg, coming from Las Vegas. Both of us had great weekends. Congratulations, Hank, on a super day yesterday.
Thank you.
It's fun. It's much more fun to win and to collect than to pay out. We had a couple weeks that were rocky, but boy, I'll tell you, this week was great.
It was an interesting week. I'll tell you something. There were a lot of games. I liked the card this week a lot, and I had my two best bets were Dallas and well, I'll let you know what the other one was. Let people call for it. But the Dallas game was interesting because I thought that Prescott was like Jekyll and Hyde in that game. He played bad enough to hand the game over to Philadelphia. He certainly played bad enough to let him back into the game. Also, the Dallas special teams almost killed him. Terrible punt, a couple of missed kicks. But they overcame it, and when the chips were down, Prescott came through, and of course Cooper was huge in the game, and it was the poor secondary of Philadelphia that let them down. But Philadelphia's offense was not good until the fourth quarter, when Prescott had the turnovers and let them back in the game because Dallas had really shut them down early. But Philadelphia's in big trouble now, and probably won't make the playoffs.
Yeah, I expect they won't. That Miami finish against the Patriots was amazing. That was fun to watch.
Yeah, it's interesting. Gates remembered that play that Boise made years ago. And, the New England's offense played well, but their defense isn't good. And prior to that, they were giving up scores to Miami, which isn't great. They don't have a great running game, but New England, I think, has got problems because their defense isn't good. And that play reminded me of when I was broadcasting the Dolphin games, the play with Tony Nathan and Duriel Harris against the Chargers in the playoff game, what they call the hook and lateral.
Oh, yeah.
When Don Strock had that play that Shula had put in, and it worked for a touchdown. It was pretty exciting. It worked right at the end of the half, and gave the Dolphins right in that game. Unfortunately, they lost the game when the Chargers just came back at them. That was the game when their Hall of Fame tight end had a huge day. But that was exciting.
It definitely was. The high-flying offenses that we saw in September and October and early November have started to, the defenses seem to be catching up to them a little bit. Injuries, of course, and that have taken its toll on some of the offenses as well. But some defenses are really, like Dallas stepped up against the Saints 2 weeks ago. The Bears stepped up against the Rams. And then, and of course, Kansas City with Baltimore, the defenses really stood up against these high-flying offenses.
Baltimore should have won that game, and their defenses. We figured that game that Baltimore's defense would do well against Kansas City, and Kansas City's defense is not good, and Baltimore had a terrible call go against them. And really freaked out the Baltimore coach, and it was an offensive
I saw it.
Pass interference call that was really bogus, and it killed the Baltimore drive. And I think Baltimore would have won that game had they not had that call go against them.
I saw it, and I couldn't believe it. It was some of the officials are absolutely horrendous.
Well, that was terrible, and Baltimore played well enough to win that game because they were running the ball against Kansas City's defense, and Kansas City this week is going to play. Are they playing the Chargers this week?
Kansas City is at home Thursday night, 3.5-point favorite over the Chargers.
Well, that'll be an interesting game.
Very important. Very important.
And I think that Baltimore right now is in a pretty good position. Their schedule is not tough the rest of the way, and I think they're going to catch Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh right now has turned into Carolina North. They're losing games the same way Carolina does. Their quarterback is faded. He can't make plays when he needs to. Their defense is not playing well. And they've just, to lose to the Raiders the way they did, I know that, Fat Face has never played well in Oakland. But still, these are the Raiders. And the Raiders have played, pretty good ball the last couple of weeks, scoring a couple of upsets. But still, Pittsburgh, with the talent they have, they obviously missed the assistant coaches who left there, and that coach looks lost. He really does. He don't know what to do.
You go back 4 weeks against Jacksonville. They should have lost that game. It was a miracle they won it. They played in Denver. They actually should have won the game against Denver, but they lost it. Then they blew the big game against the Chargers when they had the big lead, and then they go out to Oakland and lose that game. They really haven't played, quality football for about a month. So, they have...
Well, something, and Connor's hurt now, although Samuels is not a bad back, but they made a big mistake on Bell. Huge mistake. They should have signed him. And at least 2 of those games they would have won, but if they had Bell. But their defense did not play well against the Raiders, and that was kind of surprising. And you mentioned Denver. Vance Joseph became Vance Joseph again, and they went on the road and lost to San Francisco.
Yeah, this San Francisco team, this young man, this Mullins, that went to the same school Bradshaw did and broke all his records, didn't get drafted. He threw for over 400 yards against Seattle previous week, and he's playing very well. This kid he's undrafted. Nobody knew anything about him. I don't know how he didn't get drafted, but he is playing very well. Now, granted, they're going to have to do something. He's going to move on, or they'll keep him as their second guy, but be that as it may, San Francisco looks like not this year, but going into the future, they look like they're going to be a pretty tough team under Kyle Shanahan, who has a pretty good reputation as being a pretty good offensive coach.
Their tight end had over 200 yards receiving, and Vance Joseph can't coach. That's a given. They got fortunate through 2 or 3 games and played decently on the road. And now they're back to the same old Broncos, and they're going to have to do something there.
Yeah, I don't understand the situation in Denver. It's been strange for a few years.
And Case Keenum played a terrible game yesterday.
Well, John Elway's going to have to step up since he's in charge. He's going to have to figure out a different system than he's following. But anyway, there are some teams that have some playoff implications, and they're still in the mix. Tennessee, Baltimore, Indianapolis, Miami even is in the mix. It's kind of wide open right now in some spots that we didn't think were going to be wide open, but these upsets that we've been having the last couple of weeks have really changed things around. It makes it a lot more interesting going down the stretch.
I'll tell you, the Giants are playing well now.
They really are. It's a little late for them, but they definitely are. Of course, Washington...
the Giants could wind up with 8 wins.
Wow. That would be... I guess that would be a milestone for them. They are... All they have to do is win out. They're a 2.5-point favorite at home this week against Tennessee. that will be a much tougher game than what they just played against with Washington.
So this is a game they can win.
They could win it. Well, they are favored to win it. Definitely. Aaron Rodgers bounced back with a victory over the hapless Atlanta Falcons without McCarthy.
I'll tell you something. I'm happy for Philbin. He's a nice man. I'm glad to see him get a win for him. But Atlanta is in bad trouble, and there's another team with talent that went nowhere this year. Although I know they had the injuries on defense, and that's a team that's going to be making some changes. I'm sure that owner's not going to stand for this.
And I don't blame them. I mean, ever since they lost the 28-3 halftime lead over New England and lost Kyle Shanahan as their offensive coordinator, they have not been the same team. They just and basically, for the most part, they kept pretty much the same players, but it just didn't work after that. The chemistry was gone. Some big games coming up this week, though, Hank. And we got basketball. You've been doing really well in basketball, Hank.
Yeah, well, now they're taking time off for exams. Those damn students are ruining everything in college basketball.
We forget, though, that these college basketball players are also students, and they do have to go to class. How about? I gave you a little bit of a warning about Tennessee against Gonzaga, and Tennessee beat them. I had a little money. I had a little money on them. I did. It wasn't a big play, but I had a little money on them. You're not going to go. Nobody's going to go through the season undefeated. That's for sure. It's a tough road.
But there's bowl games coming up this week. They start. So they're not significant bowl games, but they'll be important to those kids. And there'll be a couple of games you don't normally see on prime time. And but the bowl season gets started this week, and that'll be interesting. And then you've got Saturday NFL games. The Saturday games aren't great because I think the Jets are playing, and there's a couple of games that there's one game that I guess will be interesting to watch, but those are two games on Saturday, two NFL games. But this is an interesting time right now. I watched a little bit of the I watched I have access to 4 or 5 games at once, and I watched the Saints when I found out they were losing to Tampa Bay. I wanted to see what happened in that game, and they came back, and their defense really shut down. They had a block kick in the game, and then Breeze got hot, and they wound up winning that game by 2 touchdowns. But they had a little bit of a scare from Tampa Bay, and then they just totally shut down the Tampa Bay quarterback, and there was no contest in the second half. But the Saints' offense has not been all that great the last couple of weeks. But they got the home field advantage back with the Rams loss. Now let's talk about the Rams-Chicago game. When on my television show yesterday, when we talked about that game, the reason I picked Chicago was I said that while the Rams have a great defensive player, he did. The rest of their defense has got some issues, although they're good. But Chicago has 6 Pro Bowl defensive players. And so it's not about, one guy, although he had a hell of a game. They also had 5 other guys who contribute. And I'll tell you, that Nagy is some coach. And what they did is they doubled up on the Rams' key guy on defense the whole game, and they really shut him out. He did nothing. The Bears managed to shut him down because he was doubled the whole game, and Sue did nothing. They handled him one-on-one, and they had, although Trubisky did not play a good game, he was like Zach. You know, in Dallas, they were like Jekyll and Hyde in the game. Trubisky did his best to hand the game over to him, but that Chicago defense, as we said, you know, Goff cannot play in cold weather. He just can't. He was horrible.
He was really bad. Yes, he was.
Yeah, and they did not use Gurley enough. For some reason, he doesn't go to Gurley enough when he needs to. But the Bears' defense, I'll tell you something. If the Bears play Dallas in the postseason, it'll be interesting to see which quarterback has the worst game, because those two quarterbacks have problems.
Well, they're marginal quarterbacks, but both of those teams have pretty good defenses. I mean, Dallas and Chicago. I mean, Dallas shut down the Saints, and Chicago just shut down the Rams, and they're pretty effective defensive teams.
Well, Chicago's got a great defense. Their defense is as good as you'll find in a long time, and we'll see how far they can take it. But Trubisky, you know, he turned the ball over 3 times in the game, and they were all horrible. They were all unnecessary, and his passes tend to sail, and he's better when he runs than he is when he throws.
Yeah, he may not be their long-time answer, but right now it's pretty much all they got. So
but that defense can really play, and if they're home and they get teams up there in their weather. You know, if they get a bye week somehow, they're going to be tough. But and a team like that can travel because they got the good running game and they got the great defense.
That's one thing can happen. If you can run the ball and play defense, you can travel. That's always been proven. We got a great game tonight, the Seattle-Minnesota game. We both have strong plays on that, and people should go to jimfeist.com and pick those plays up right now, because those lines will move, and we've been cashing. So you want to cash and win some money tonight on the game, go to our site, jimfeist.com. We're also going to have basketball. I don't think we'll have much.
By the way, I had Navy.
I had the under. That's 2 winners. That's 2 winners right there. Under and Navy. So the bowl season starts this week, and I'll give everybody a free play right now. There's an FCS bowl on Friday. It's South Dakota State against North Dakota State, and it's on the 14th. Let me go see what I can find on that game. Starts on the 14th. It's at 5 p.m. Pacific time. South Dakota State against North Dakota State. South Dakota State is 10-2 on the season. North Dakota State is 13-0, and I'm going to go with North Dakota State in that game. By the way, that's where Wentz comes from. So they play some pretty good ball out there. That's a good little team, and it's going to be a good game. But I think North Dakota State in the end will win that and cover the spread. That's the beginning of the bowl season for me, and we got bowls starting on Saturday. We've got a bunch of them, Hank.
Yep.
It's going to be pretty interesting.
I think Middle Tennessee is playing in one of those early bowl games. But there's some interesting ones. I guess some of these teams that are playing in some of these bowl games. You wonder how they got there, but they did. So we'll see what happens. I looked at the later bowl games, and there are a lot of games on New Year's Day that will follow the 2 playoff games.
Yeah, there are. But these are all pretty good teams. Georgia, Texas is a hell of a game. Washington against Ohio State. LSU, Central Florida. Central Florida, of course, is undefeated. Kentucky against Penn State. Iowa against Mississippi State. That's all on January 1st. So you have some really great games there. And, of course, we have the big games with Clemson Notre Dame, and Alabama against Oklahoma. It looks like the Heisman Trophy winner will not go to the NFL. He will go to the Oakland A's, who drafted him, and he's going to be play baseball instead of football.
Yep.
Probably pretty smart to do that. You'll have probably less injuries. You won't have to deal with the rookie contract and earn $600,000 a year for the first few years, and he's a little.
I enjoyed watching that show, seeing those old Heisman winners.
Yeah.
You know who looks great? And I was trying to figure out how old he must be now. Pete Dawkins, the old Army back who won the Heisman, I think in 1959, something like that. And he looks incredible.
It's got to be almost 80 years old, Hank.
Yeah, exactly. And Spurrier looks good. Good to see him standing up there, and he's going to be coaching in that new league. So the old ball coach is going to be the old ball coach again.
That's a good one. Okay, Hank, nothing else, I'll close this off, and thank you for joining me today. And everybody out there, again, go to jimfeist.com. Hank has been red hot, and I have been doing very well as well. jimfeist.com, and get our picks. Thanks, Hank.
Oh, by the way, there's only 2 college basketball games today, and not playable for me. No. And I think the basketball situation in Los Angeles is interesting now because the big team has been playing well lately, and they got a couple of good games. They're playing the Heat tonight at home, and the Heat just had a big upset win. Excuse me, against the other LA team that had been hot until last week, and so this will be an interesting game tonight with the Lakers, and the Lakers are playing well now.
And you have to mention, a side note there is Dwayne Wade and LeBron, who are friends, and I'm not sure, but this might be the last time they ever play against each other.
I would think so.
Yeah. And Dwayne Wade has had a hell of a career. He's a great basketball player in college, in the pros, and
he's a genuine good guy too.
Yeah, I've never met him, but I'm sure you have. And,
yeah, many times.
All right, Hank, thank you very much. Thanks, everybody out there. We'll talk again on Wednesday. Thanks, Hank.
The real